So I've spent my whole life in Missouri. I live in Kansas City now, but I grew up in a really little farm town about an hour and a half east of Kansas City on the Missouri River. And my whole town where I grew up is all underwater right now, or at least surrounded by water. The Missouri River Valley's flooded really bad. Growing up in a small town, I kind of had this inferiority complex about big cities. I thought, it's all going on in the big city. All the cool stuff, the music, the art, it's all going on in the big city. And when I grew up and actually moved to the big city, I realized that I knew more people living in a small town than my kids have known living in the middle of a 3 million population city. And I also realized that much weirder things happen in the small towns than happen in the big cities. You get better stories from what goes on in a small town. So I want to tell you one of those small town stories. I was getting out of high school right about the end of the Vietnam War. And all the guys that I knew that went to Vietnam, they all came back. They all got back home. But as does happen to soldiers, they come back different than when they left. And there was one old boy, when he got back, he wanted everybody just to leave him alone. And he took to the woods, and he just built a shack out there in the woods and lived off of whatever he could kill. And, you know, small towns, they kind of look out for their own, and so we just gave him his space, figure he'll work that out. And this was a little north of town, on a road called the Lakeview Road, out north of my hometown. And right about that time, houses started getting broken into. And things were getting stolen, and chickens were being killed, and that just didn't happen in small towns back then. Weird, violent things happening, and people would be driving home along this Lakeview Road at night, and they'd see a naked, bearded man running alongside the road, disappearing into the woods. And they started referring to him as the Lakeview Man. We all kind of knew who it was. But then the question was, how long's that guy been out there? Maybe he's been out there longer than before Vietnam. Maybe he goes back to who knows which war. So this is the true story of the Lakeview Man. Called the sheriff and said, come quick, somebody broke in the freezer and stole all my steaks. The dog is still hiding. The sheriff said, ma'am, sounds to me like the Lakeview Man. The Lakeview Man is a wild man. He lives in the woods outside of town, howls at the moon. Listen if you can, you might hear the Lakeview Man. Some say he was a soldier who came home from war, all in one piece but with emotional scars. Agree on the story, argue about the date, Vietnam or the war between the states. And the Lakeview Man is a wild man. He lives in the woods outside of town, howls at the moon. Listen if you can, you might hear the Lakeview Man. Well, I took the shortcut to the river last night, a beard and a blur in my long beam lights. Drank a few beers, skipped a few stones, drove a little faster on the way back home. A cow is found dead. A chicken is missing, found missing its head. Shotgun gone, ready in the sand. 2 toes shy, the Lakeview Man. The Lakeview Man is a wild man. He lives in the woods outside of town, howls at the moon. Listen if you can, you might hear the Lakeview Man. The Lakeview Man is a wild man. Lives in the woods outside of town, howls at the moon. Listen if you can, you might hear the Lakeview Man. You might hear the Lakeview Man. You might hear the Lakeview Lakeview Man, you might hear the Lakeview Man. Thank you. The Lakeview Man actually makes a cameo appearance in a Stephen King novel. Stephen King was writing about a little town in Maine, which he always does, and he was talking about this guy that kind of wandered the streets at night, and he wrote, "He's like the Lakeview Man who haunts the back roads of Missouri." And I thought, Stephen, no one knows who you're talking about except 800 people in my hometown. They get that, they get that reference, nobody else does.